I'm Ruth George, and this is the Good Life and Legacy podcast, where we explore answers to the questions, how are you creating a great legacy by living well, planning well, and supporting those that you care about. And this month, I'm switching gears from professionals sharing wisdom to young people sharing their insights. Just like we talk about starter homes and starter cars, these folks are just getting started. In this episode, in addition to our usual topics of enjoying yourself, planning, and confident decision-making, we'll talk about what might be involved in a starter estate plan. And welcome, Ray George.
Hi, happy to be here.
Hi, Ray. So I am so curious. Tell us what's going on in your life professionally and how did you get there?
So right now I work in chemical sales. I sell chemicals to paper mills, so that's a little bit unique. Most people haven't heard of that or know that, your toilet paper, Amazon boxes, they're made somewhere. They come from somewhere. So
Right.
That's what I do. I got a paper engineering degree out of a school called ESF here in the background. And yeah, so I work for a company called Nelco. They're owned by a larger company called Ecolab. So you'll see that on like your soap dispensers and different stuff in different bathrooms and stuff like that. So if you see that Ecolab name, that's the company that I work for.
Yeah. I'm so impressed that you knew what you wanted to do and really went for it. You found that specialty and said, this is what I want to do. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, I kind of backed my way into it. Normally people pick a major and then pick a college. I did that backwards and I picked a college and then said, okay, let's try to find a major. And turns out one of my mom's coworker's brother actually went through the program. He recommended it, basically said, there's scholarship support, paid internships, and you're guaranteed a job after graduation.
And that sounded good to you.
That all, as a senior in high school who didn't really know what he wanted to do exactly, that all sounded great. So,
and you stuck with it.
Yeah. So here I am almost 10 years later.
Has it been?
It's a little over 10 years later.
Whoa.
Since I made that decision. So yeah, so everything's going well.
Okay. So have you found it to be personally or professionally rewarding, or what are your thoughts as far as your journey in the last 10 years or so that you've been embarked on this career?
Definitely rewarding, but definitely, a lot of hard work, stressful at times too.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the stressful times when they pay off. That's the rewarding part for me.
Okay.
So when you're, working really hard to close a sale or help a customer, and then that kind of finally bursts through and, they're happy or, the company's happy, that's kind of the rewarding part for me. So that's what I look forward to.
Oh, that's really neat. Yeah, you feel the payoff as far as all that you've been doing.
Yep.
I really need to follow you on some of the things that you do because I'm so intrigued. It's another world that I know nothing about, but
you're not the only one. Everyone thinks it's kind of made up. Nobody ever thinks of, making paper until, 2 years ago now when you couldn't buy toilet paper anywhere. That's when people started
wondering,
that comes from
who are the people involved and what's going on? Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, all right. So we talk about making decisions on this podcast. How do you go about making your own decisions, whether they be smaller ones or bigger ones? Just tell us your thoughts there.
Smaller decisions I tend to make on a whim. I'm pretty well known for making a decision, doing it one way, then realizing I did it wrong and have to, then do the research and then go back and buy the right product or do it the right way.
But you're willing to risk it a little, a smaller decision, right?
Well, that's kind of the engineer in me where I'm like, oh, I can figure this out. And then maybe I can, maybe I can't. And so then, you learn from it and you move on. But
right.
The bigger decisions, I'm more slow and calculated.
Okay.
I can kind of tell if I want to do something or not, or if I'm ready to, pull the trigger because, if I'm ready, my example is if I'm scrolling Marketplace or Craigslist and I see something that I want, I'll I'll go and get it that day. But if it's something I'm not sure of, I'm a little bit slower to chase after it or, really go for it until I feel
Well,
confident.
so if you don't mind, can you tell us your decision in, I think, some of the travels that you've done? I don't even think I know some of the things that you have
Yeah.
done, but I think I had heard at least one story and thought, really? He did this?
So yeah, it's kind of so starting in school for my internship, I could have I went to school in Syracuse, so I could have stayed local to do an internship. But instead I decided to go to Maine and decided to go to Georgia for my 2 internships. And that was just kind of, I'm young. This is the best time for me to travel and do these things, might as well just go and do it. So that there was really that was one of those decisions that I made, and it didn't actually dawn on me until like the week before, when I was like, oh, I have to pack up my entire life into my car and drive to Maine next week.
On your own?
Yeah, so I think my mom went with me the first time, but still, I mean, I packed everything I owned into a Chevy Malibu and drove 8 or 9 hours to a different state to spend
Right.
4 months. And
Wow.
then I came home, went to school, and then I did the same thing. I went back to Maine for 4 more months.
Oh,
And I was home for a week and drove to Atlanta for the summer. So it's just kind of all those, I kind of did those on a whim, but it worked out for the best.
and
Here we
didn't you
are.
go on some sort of, was it hiking or something
Yep.
outdoor, and you were really on your own, and you were sleeping in a tent or whatever you did? And that's the
Yeah,
thing I
so
thought, really? That's a little scary all on your own.
so I my for vacations, what I like to do is go to national parks. I'm trying to work my way through. I think they're up to 62 of them now, and I've been
How
to
many?
16 or I think there's 62
Oh,
national parks now.
okay.
And I've been to either 16 or 17 of them. So that was kind of, I just, pick a few parks in an area, go and kind of have a general idea of spots I wanted to see. And then I finally got into, backpacking or in the hiking part where just the backpacking is you put everything you need into a backpack and you walk out on the trail, and you either, some places you have, there's backpacking campsites, or sometimes it's just whatever, it's kind of free range, whatever tree you can find. So I had bad story. This was either my second time doing this, I think. But I was in Zion National Park. It was early June, so it was 100 degrees. The spring that was normally going to be on my trail had dried up. And I had just hiked, I think, like 18 miles the day before. And so I threw as much water as I could into my pack. And kind of the general rule of thumb is when you run halfway out of water, that's when you're supposed to turn around. Is that, it takes half the water to get in, half the water to get out. So I was kind of managing my water, and basically I got to a point where I was like, it was before noon, but I was in the area I was supposed to be. But I knew my body was so exhausted that if I didn't stop, I was just going to be dead, not literally dead, but I wouldn't have been able to get out the next day.
Sure.
So I ended up finding 2 trees. They weren't far enough apart for my hammock. So I had like my hammock wrapped around just so I could put the hammock up, put the rain tarp up just to get out of the sun. Basically just took a nap and just hung out on the side of a hill for the whole afternoon, just because I was just so exhausted from, I forget how many miles, it was probably 5 or 6 miles in, but it was 100 degrees and you're carrying probably 30 pounds on your back of all your stuff.
Wow.
And like I said, after hiking for 18 miles the night before or day before. So it's a, learning experience.
And you were all by yourself?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Just
I can't imagine.
Totally alone. So
Yep.
No cell phone service, anything like that. You're just out basically on a mountain or on the side of a hill.
Were you nervous?
No, because I was never in a spot where I was really worried. I stopped before I got to that point. I kind of realized that okay, I'm getting tired. My water's just about halfway. I need to cook lunch. I need to cook dinner. I need to walk out tomorrow. I'm at the point where I need to find something to kind of settle
Yeah.
down and relax. So
Mm.
yeah, I didn't push myself too far, but I was definitely, if I would have kept walking another mile or so, I definitely would have, been in a maybe, I probably still could have managed, but I definitely would have been more dehydrated walking out the next day. So
Yeah. Well, you made it out.
yep. No, I woke up the next morning basically early when it was still cool and just packed everything up and walked right out as, kind of as quick as I can.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
yeah. So that
wow.
was probably my that's probably the worst story around
Yeah.
that. But there's plenty of other good ones that, things
Huh.
go as planned and,
Right.
you're not worried.
Right. Well, you made a very big decision and bought something very big, didn't you?
Yeah. So I decided to move 3 hours from where I grew up and I bought a house. So it's a house on 40 plus acres, about 44 acres in a big old pole barn. I knew I had some friends. I had one good friend and a few other at the time, friends or acquaintances that lived in the general area. And I just kind of, I thought that's where I wanted to be. And so I bought this house and really it's one of the best decisions I've made in my life. So I'm, thrilled the way it worked out. Timing wise, I've been in the house a little over 2 years. And so, yeah, I mean, it was kind of, this was a slow decision where I
Okay.
didn't see a lot of houses, but I knew what I wanted and I knew I wasn't in a hurry. So I was kind of able to kind of wait until I found a house or a situation that I really wanted.
Yeah. So it's one of those incredibly wonderful big decisions that you were confident about. It's something you wanted and you spent enough time thinking about it and planning it and feeling very
Yeah,
confident in the moment.
I think it was probably almost a year of looking kind of,
Hmm.
and it was more passive looking where if something popped up, I was looking, but it wasn't, I would look if I was heading that direction, but it wasn't, I'm not like going out of my way to look at houses and,
Yeah.
I was kind of,
Yeah.
selective of the ones. So when this kind of came up, I knew it was a little bit bigger of a house than I probably need, but
Right.
you never know down the road, but it had the land I wanted, it had the barn, it was kind of, it had the location. So everything else checked out. So I knew it was
Yeah.
kind of, that was
And you've
the
got
one.
quite an ability to do things as well with, you know, farming, if you will, and animals. And I know that you are, just so able to do so many different things. So that alone is so impressive.
That's what, that's kind of, you work hard, but you also need to have that kind of stuff you enjoy at home. So that's what I like to do is kind of working on projects around the house or, collecting different animals or whatever it is. So that's kind of what I enjoy to do in my free time.
Oh, that's really great. What kind of animals do you have now?
um, I have 44, so it takes a
You
little
do
while.
not.
I do. So I have the basic cats and dog, and chickens are kind of more normal. Then I have turkeys, guinea hen, quail, ducks, goat, sheep, and then 4 different kinds of pheasants.
Do you really?
So, yep. So that was this morning. I was out moving stuff around at different pens, and so, but yeah. So it keeps me busy for sure.
I was going to say, you've got
There's,
so much stuff going on.
yeah,
Wow.
there's a lot of mouths that depend on me here. So.
I'd say so. That is a lot. Wow. Oh my God. Okay. So, well, I was going to say, let's talk about adulting, but you got some adulting going on right there. Plenty of
Yep.
it. Plenty of it. Oh my gosh. What does adulting mean to you?
I think it kind of, you already alluded to it, but decisions and then,
Mhm.
the kind of, bills. I mean, it's, when you're growing up, you can take a risk either with a job or, stuff like that. And if it if it backfires, you can fall back on mom and dad, not a big deal. But, at this point, if, I have a house, I have, all this, I have expenses every month that I need to cover. And, so that's kind of in the back of your mind when you're making big decisions. So,
Mhm. Hmm. Yeah, really responsible for your own affairs,
mhm.
making decisions that are going to work for your own uh, life and what you want your life to be. Yeah.
So,
Well, okay, so I talk about estate planning. And so one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, do you think that adulting should mean having some estate planning documents in order, like a will, power of attorney, healthcare proxy?
when you say it, I think, yes, that is something that, somebody should have. But have I ever thought of that before? Now, no. Do I have
Right.
anything like that? No. I'm a young, you know, single guy who lives in a house, and kind of,
Yeah.
that doesn't cross my mind, honestly.
Yeah.
It-
And I don't think for the most part, it really should, because that's not how we function, right? But people just think of, well, when there's a need. I think that it would be great, like when we think about having health insurance or car insurance or hazard insurance, it's like you get those things because somebody's telling you, this will be helpful in a moment of need. So in my mind, having some basic estate planning documents in place is really just showing or, helping somebody realize it's just something to have in place in the event there is a need.
yeah,
And I think it's also good because it gets you on the road of thinking about those things moving forward. I think it's a good sort of frame of mind to have as you move forward in life. So, but I totally agree with you. I mean, I'll be honest, I wasn't even, thinking of estate planning
hmm,
documents. And you go to law school and you don't even hear, I mean, the law school I went to, that wasn't something even
yeah,
that people
yeah,
generally talked about or anything. So I think it's just sort of a gap in how we think of it. But certainly, I think it's important to have. So you know what a will is, right?
yep,
Yeah. Okay. So the document that you have in place, the legal document you have in place in the event of your death, it'll say what you want, done with your assets. And in your event, oh my gosh, your case, you've got all these animals
yeah,
in a farm, but don't worry. I shouldn't bring it up. The power of attorney now. So that's the document that, let's just say that, you couldn't act or you were out of town and you wanted somebody to pay some bills for you. They would legally be able to pay those bills by getting your checkbook, signing some
yep,
checks and things like that. So financial matters. And healthcare proxy, that's just the one that helps with healthcare decision making. So the default for healthcare is that if you were in the hospital and you needed somebody else to make medical decisions for you, there is a pecking order and a statute, but there's no such type of statute for power of attorneys. So let's just say you needed somebody to help with your financial affairs, you're kind of stuck because there's
yep.
nothing even as a default statute would go. So anything you want to add to that
No,
horrible
it's just
little discussion?
no, it is interesting though, but most people probably don't think of stuff like that until there is a direct need. It's kind of,
Yeah.
something happens and you think, oh, now I need to get that in line.
Yeah.
You don't think about it ahead of
Yeah.
time like you do other, things like health insurance or, stuff like that. It's just there's a different outlook on those
Right.
type of
Right.
uh,
It's almost
documents.
one of those things you just need forced on you in somehow, in some way, like you have to do your
Yeah.
taxes. And when you
Yep.
buy a house with a mortgage, you really have to have that hazard insurance, and same thing with the car and things like that. It's almost like it'd be better if somebody, you know,
Yeah,
forced
just
it
said
on
like,
us.
hey, you need, really as soon as you buy a house, or even, if have any sort of property, that's when you actually have, there's times, or there may be a time where somebody needs to act on your behalf. And,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
most people probably don't think about it until at least, 10 years after they get a house, or, until they start, having kids or get married or something like
Right.
that. It takes another big life event because
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah. And if I could, in a perfect world, I think that I would just make everybody more aware of just having these things in place, even when you don't need them, because it helps you with that mindset going forward. Because I deal with people who, mom, dad, or whatever, they say need a lot, mom or dad needs some help, but we don't have a power of attorney in place. We don't have a healthcare proxy in place. Well, can mom or dad sign those documents now? No. And, so many situations like that. So I think, well, what's going on here? We all need to kind of set ourselves up better and have a more proactive approach to these things. And I think the mindset has to start way earlier than we all think.
Yeah, I think it goes along with, the saying is where young people kind of think they're indestructible, or, you think, I can't get hurt, or, that something like that won't happen to me.
Right.
Where, honestly, I think if you would have asked, do you think your parents should have those three things in line? I would say yes, 100%.
Right.
But here I am. And then if you ask me the same question, I'd say, maybe, maybe not.
Right.
So it's just a totally different outlook on something that would benefit you no matter what your age.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. I know. All right. So what about a financial advisor? Do you think you'd want to have a financial advisor in your life? Just curious.
This is one where, do I have one? No. Should I personally have one? Probably. There's plenty of ways these days where you can do a lot of that yourself. I am not one of those people. I honestly, I went, hand up, I went 6 or 8 months after I started my first job and didn't realize that the simple IRA that I was putting money into wasn't actually invested in it. It was just sitting there. And it might have been a year that it was doing that. And I didn't even realize, I didn't even realize that I actually had to go in and select what plan or whatever it was.
Because you were doing it yourself.
Investing into. Yeah. And it pops up on the app and, you can click through different, but I didn't do that. And so, I went, it might have been a year. I'd like to underestimate and say 6 months, but it was probably closer to a year where, my money was just basically in a savings account or just sitting there in an account, and it wasn't invested in the retirement plan that it was supposed to be in. So
yeah. Well, if that's the worst you've done, you got nothing to worry about.
I can be thankful, I have, I've been quite fortunate with, employment and everything like that. So I have, that money kind of set aside, but what I do with it, I'm more hit or miss on, it's kind of, if I can just set it and forget it, that's kind of my motto when it comes to that.
Right.
I know myself, and I'm not going to pay attention every month or, frequently enough to, manage my portfolio. That's just not my personality. That's not what I do.
And I think there can be a great benefit when you have questions or, you're just not sure of something, or you want to bounce ideas off of a financial person. But, I think it really comes down to having somebody you really can trust and who can give you really good advice, and sort of establishing that ability to talk to that person so that you can make, even better decisions as far as financial matters go. So I just think I missed the boat completely, but I'm my own story, so I'm not going to go into that. But I just think of like people like you, and I think, geez, I wonder what even you think, at this point in time about something like that.
I know a couple of my friends mentioned, going to a financial advisor, getting their taxes done. And I kind of think, you dorks, like you don't need to do that. Like, just do your taxes online. I don't know, financial, just kind of, put the money aside that you can and just kind of, throw it in there, but but yes, honestly, I should be more proactive.
Oh,
it's just
you're doing fabulous.
I don't have the attention span to follow up on that stuff. I put something like that on my to-do list, and it'll stay there until I get rid of it because I'm sick of looking at it. But
there's some things you're just like, nah, that's not what I want to even spend time on right now.
It all goes back to those like making big decisions, and if I'm not ready or don't want to, I'll just kind of put them off. I don't want to do this stuff, and so I put it off, and I say, oh,
but you're not doing anything crazy. It's not like you're.
I'm not. I'm probably. Am I getting my max return that I could? No, I'm not. But I'm not. My money isn't stuffed in my mattress or anything like that. So.
Right. Yeah, because I made a really,
doing something.
yeah, that's what I would say, where, sort of a financial coach or a person who's just financially a sounding board for you sometimes, that's what I think of as far as one of my big downfalls, let's say in the past, but you're not like that at all. So no problems there. You're just thinking about sort of maximizing and keeping the pot, as well functioning as it can, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even, I wish when I bought my house, I took my loan advice or my mortgage advice from my younger brother who had, he's not in that, he's not in that career at all. That was his opinion. So I took his advice, and then was it 2 years later, his advice is completely the opposite of what it was at the time. And I said,
Oh,
wait a
really?
minute, you told me to do the opposite. He's like, well, yeah, at that point I believed this, but now, I'm like, okay, what was I doing taking the advice of a 21-year-old senior in college, or he was probably a junior in college who, there's no training, but that's who I took my mortgage advice from.
Okay, that brings up a good point. Some people are just very convincing, or, they've got good arguments. And you know what else I think is people will rely on friends and family more sometimes than professional advisors,
Mhm.
and I see it all the time. I'll say something to a client and they'll go, well, let me check with my neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Okay,
like you said,
sure.
somebody you
So
trust, it's,
yeah,
it all goes back to that. And nobody likes feeling like, or either feeling like, or being taken advantage of.
yes,
And
yeah,
that's kind of one way to avoid that is, you have people you trust, for better, for worse.
yeah. Yeah, he might have changed his opinion, but he was always trying to give you his best advice, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. His personal best advice, even though it may or may not have been actually advice.
And sometimes that's just what you want, someone's personal best advice, because I don't know,
Yep.
it's just makes you feel good, right?
Yeah, that's, he knew more about the subject than I did. That
Yeah.
made him an expert in my mind,
Right.
at the time.
That's
But
good. Well, all right. So here's a question for you. Do you think you could handle an inheritance wisely, whether that means a house or part of ownership in a house, or some cash, or whatever it may be?
I I think I could handle it. Maybe, wisely might not be the overall, the word I would use, but I think I would manage, pretty well with that. It's
Yeah.
um having experience with, owning a house right now, that you kind of have a little bit more insight into stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you would have asked me that a few years ago, no, I would have,
That's interesting.
it's,
Yeah.
I
Well,
have the mortgage, I have the bills, and I know, owning a house isn't just, paying the mortgage. You also have the home insurance, you have to eat it, you have to pay the electric, there's more than what meets the eye. So that,
yeah.
sometimes you don't realize that.
Yeah, it's like you hear people who gamble, or they do receive an inheritance or something, big money, and they don't, I'm not talking about the people who maybe don't maximize it in the best way possible, but really kind of,
Yeah, you
make,
buy the nice car, you buy the, timeshare, or all that stuff, and before you know it, all that money is, gone.
yeah. And then, you become depressed, or, you get into some trouble, you just can't
Yep.
handle things. And almost, I've seen some, heard of and seen some really unfortunate kind of situations like that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
even if you get a inheritance sum like that, and you buy a house, and then you don't think about that nice house that you just bought with that lump sum. You're going to have to maintain payments and pay taxes and everything like that, and
Right.
afford that when you have that large sum of inheritance. But once that runs out, you need to still be able to afford payments and stuff like that on
Yeah. Yeah.
that property, or whatever it is you're buying.
Right. All right. So let's talk about feeling good as you move forward in life with personal and professional changes. So what do you think you're going to do as far as going into the future and making good decisions, both personally, professionally, and just consciously moving forward so that you're feeling good about your decisions?
My current job, I started a little over a year ago. And basically I made that switch because I wanted a change in my personal life. I
Oh,
was
okay.
traveling a lot and I wasn't home. And I wanted to have that time to spend it with, friends, family, just at my house. I wanted to have more of a personal life. And so I
Wow.
made that career change, you know, solely for that. That was the main driver. When the CFO of my old company asked, is there anything we can do, you know, to keep you? I said no, because it wasn't about the money. It wasn't about, the title or, job description. I enjoyed all that. I was happy. I just needed something more in life. And I knew that that job wasn't, I wasn't able to do that. So
Wow.
I think that's really the best example I can give of,
That's,
making those
yeah,
decisions.
that's so much about what I love talking about on the podcast, because you want to continue to tweak your life, or think about moving forward as your whole self, not just I'm going to work till I'm whatever age and make as much money as I can so that I can do X, Y, or Z. You're really saying at this point in time, I need to make a big change, really.
Yeah, like I was happy in my professional life, but I wanted all those animals that I listed off. That's something I enjoy, and you need to be home to feed them and make sure they have water and make sure they're protected. And you can't do that when you're leaving your house on Monday and coming home Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, that I couldn't do both, and I had to make that
Right.
decision whether to, chase my personal goal of
Yeah.
building myself a little hobby farm and all that type of stuff, or continue with a job that I
Right.
really enjoyed. But I was lucky enough that I found another job that I enjoy, but it also gives me the opportunity to be home most nights, and actually have that whole other side of my life.
Wow. I'm so impressed, because being able to make decisions that align more with what works and feels right to you, just, I think, snowballs into so much, happiness and goodness and who knows what.
Yeah.
It's just really neat to hear.
I feel guilty saying this, but COVID was in a way a blessing in that regard, because I was traveling all the time and I didn't know any different. But then COVID hit. I was home from May through December, and that was kind of the eye opener to what else there is in life and what else I could kind of do with my personal life. So that was kind of the spark for me to make that change.
Wow.
So, and who knows when or if I would have had the confidence or courage to do that if I
Right.
never had that kind of eye-opening experience.
Wow. That's really neat. Hmm. All right, let's just talk last question, unless you want to add anything about, but you really kind of touched on this, what you've committed to doing as far as bringing more joy into your life. And you can take it from there, but you've already given us some great
Yeah.
food for thought.
No, so like I said, just whether it is getting a new job or moving into my house, I have a great group of friends that, I, wouldn't trade for anything now. We play volleyball during the summer in a league. We go to trivia night, we hang out, it's just, that's kind of something that I enjoy. And then, just kind of with the whole, filling my barn and, doing different stuff out there. I've got fruit trees on order for the spring.
Oh,
I
wow.
have some different fruit plants, like bushes and berries planted. I got a big old garden. That's just kind of that's what I found that I enjoy, and just kind
Right.
of pursuing those more and more. So that's what I go after.
Wow. I am so impressed. You are so amazing.
Oh,
I better
thank
say
you.
that to your brothers now.
No, that's okay. They know.
Thank you so much for being here. You gave us such interesting answers, and I really so appreciate it.
No, anytime. I won't lie, I was a little nervous. This isn't something I normally do or normally talk about, but no, I had fun. I enjoyed it. So
I actually really enjoyed it, super enjoyed it. So thank you so much.